Yep, neutral. All right. Hello, everyone. Today is January 17th, 2023, and I'm going to call this meeting of the Destin City Council to order. All right, first up, order of business, we're going to do the invocation. So, Pastor Steve, can you please come up? Oh, there you are. There you are. You moved on me.
Father, we just thank you for this time, and Lord, just your blessings upon this city. And Lord, as we're speaking, just the diversity that's here. Lord, you've sent people from all over, and Lord, you put it all together. And so, Lord, I pray as the future goes that you will inspire these men and women, Lord, as they lead, and all those on the committees and behind the seats and work here. Lord, I pray for them as well. Lord, we pray for this nation. And Lord, that you will continue to guide it. And Lord, there's so much unrest in the world. And Lord, I do believe that, as Reagan said, if we ever take God out of this country, then this country will cease to exist. And you bless us because of that, and we owe it to you. So we thank you, and we give you the praise and glory in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All righty. So first up, agenda approval. Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion and a second. Call the vote. Hey, ready?
It's all still discussion.
Oh. Oh, that's fine.
All right.
Kevin.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you.
All right, I have it so moved. All right, first up, we're going to do proclamation. All right, so first up is a proclamation. All right, so for many years in the city of Destin, we have done an Employee of the Year, and I'm very excited to give this to a very special person who goes above and beyond. As a councilman, I've gotten many emails. A lot are negative, but some are very positive, and it always comes from the maintenance and just that extra love and care. So I just really want to have a thank you to all of our staff, from whether it's Parks and Rec, public safety, anyone that goes out and puts on the face of Destin. I just really want to thank each and every city employee that we have. Y'all are what makes this city so special. And so without further ado, I'm young and I need glasses, so get ready for this one. So first off, Miguel, if you want to come up here real quick, I want to give you this plaque in honor of being the Employee of the Month. And what is your wife's name?
Miguel.
Wait, your wife?
Oh, Roslyn.
Rosalie? So nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you so much. What? Of the year. Yeah. Well, I want to thank you so much for everything you do. It's an honor that you're here. And I really appreciate all the time and effort and the compassion that you bring to the city. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You want to say something? Say something?
It's okay.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Humble man.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So all the staff members, please come up.
Our staff came for 9 years. Miguel has been with us.
You want to say something? You've known him longer. I can't wait to get you to.
You can talk for me.
Well, obviously, he's the happiest guy you'll ever meet. Every day he comes in like this. He is the best weed eater, right? Yeah. I mean, right? He does the best job there. He loves our flowers and our plants, and he just, all of our staff just really appreciates working with you every day, and we're so happy to have you on our team.
Honored.
Right?
We are very honored to have him on our team.
Yes.
Very honored.
I appreciate you guys. All right, so again, thank you so much. Up next is going to be public comments, so I'm going to start from the right side of the room and move left. So anyone here for public comments, we do have a couple things on the agenda tonight for public hearing, and we'll have an additional time to speak on those specific topics. So move in the middle, any public comments? I figured you're going to be here for a reason.
Did you come to wish the new mayor happy birthday?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Well, say your first and last name, address, and put that button.
Captain Gary Jarvis, 804 Mars Street, Destin, Florida. I'm coming up here as to give the council a gentle reminder and the new councilmen the first-time exposure to the idea of the Destin City Center. While as mayor, the council saw fit to appoint myself as Steve Franco and Shane Moody of the chamber to look and work with Publix, who was in process of purchasing the property where the Pottery Barn, not the Pottery Barn, but the old, is it Pottery Barn? Old Time Pottery was located. That contract hasn't been executed yet, even though it's under contract, but Publix looks like they've had prior approval from the council for their development there. And so that piece of property is a one-of-a-kind. This company's come in there, they're under contract, but they also showed us that they had a couple phases to their property, a phase 1 and phase 2. And phase 2 opens the door for us to maybe inquire or facilitate the development of a city center in that location. Also, while I was mayor, this council appropriated in the budget process $50,000 to use to investigate or come up with some conceptual ideas or plans of what a possible city center could or would look like. The team that we had working on this have talked to a company called Smallwood Rentals. They're one of the premier design groups in Atlanta. They were instrumental with the Alpharetta City Center. They're really good at what they do, and we talked with them, and they said for $50,000 that they felt that they could come under that and produce a three-dimensional drawing and conceptual plan of what it could look like, just as a starting point for this council and our community to decide what we want, how we want it, and what it to look like. This council has the authority to take that $50,000 and appoint this company to do that, or it also has the ability to go to the RFP process and go through that. The only reason I'm going to recommend that we use Smallwood Rentals is it's fruits of our labor. We found these guys, and they know conceptually what we've expressed to them that we would like to see happen here. But more importantly is the timing of it all. Because if the contract is executed with Publix to have that purchase consummated in May, they're going to probably start doing their deal. And if we go through the RFP process, we're going to be June, July before we start getting a conceptual idea, and we don't know what Publix will be doing at that time with their phase 2. So I highly recommend that if you see fit tonight, either give the staff direction to hire these folks and or begin the RFP process. I know we got a visioning session February 16th. If this council approves these guys, I think they could probably get a pretty good drawing into us prior to that visioning session, and that could actually be part of the visioning session where y'all make your deal. So anyways, my time's up. Thank you very much, and I'll be back.
All right, thank you so much. All right, anyone else?
John Stevens, 4025 Indian Trail. Real quick, we got a preseason water sport safety meeting coming up on February 8th at 1 p.m. It's going to be at the convention center. I know we got code enforcement showing up, and we're just hoping that someone from the council will be there too, just to see what we're doing for safety.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm going to be there.
Okay, awesome. See you there.
I'm out of the town that week, or I would be there, John.
Okay, cool. It is February 8th at 1 o'clock. Yes, sir.
At the convention center.
All right. Anyone else? All right. First, last name, and address, please.
There you go. I'm Stephen Franco, and would you ask Bobby my address? 4320 Commons Drive. Anyways, I'm here, good evening to everybody, to push on the Destin City Center as a topic. I've been working sort of behind the scenes, with some of you know, with different folks in the city to try to help propel this. And, you know, the thing I'm here to push on is to try to push forward the conceptual design of Destin City Center. I had introduced a group called Smallwood Reynolds, who is a preeminent architect design firm based in Atlanta, Georgia, who did a project called Alpharetta City Center, which I think is the model for what we want to do for Destin City Center. And I had the opportunity several months ago to invite and have former Mayor Jarvis up to come up and take a look at it and show him other projects throughout Atlanta that kind of give us a sense of what we can do here in Destin. And I want to offer the same invitation to the council tonight that if you would like to come up to Atlanta, I would be happy to take you around personally and show you guys Alpharetta City Center, the Avalon, two projects which I think mirror very nicely what we want to do here in Destin, and then show you other places that give us just different ideas. Because the one thing I can tell you as you think about these projects, if you haven't seen stuff for yourself, it's kind of hard to be able to tell other people how you want to plan something or how it should be, or an architect engineer just telling you this is how it should go when you don't really know. If you see these things, you'll develop your own opinion of what is the right feel and look. And anyways, to summarize this all, Smallwood Reynolds gave a proposal that was initially a budget that was what was approved by the city council to use in this process to come up with a conceptual site plan. And I think the timing of it is very important because of the other moving parts with the public's approvals and the other things going on, that we go ahead and move this thing along. It's really kind of taken some time, and I just would encourage you guys to do it. This group is absolutely world-class, and they've done a project of, let me say this, I've been in the real estate business almost 30 years. They've done a project that is probably the best mixed-use project in Atlanta, and it just so happens that the project of Alpharetta City Center is laid out almost identical to what we have here on Main Street. It's 22 acres, almost an exact similar layout, and by the way, there's a Publix right next door on the side of it, just like what we're facing here. So you've got a group that's got extensive experience working with Publix, working with experienced developers like myself, working in public-private partnerships with municipalities like the City of Destin. They're already familiar with the site plan. They've seen the initial submittals of Publix, and they have actually even sketched some overlays that show us what Destin City Center can look like. And from an essence of time, they've told us about 30 to 45 days. That's it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. All right, anyone else? Right side? All right, seeing none, I'm going to close the public comment section, and we will move on to the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve consent agenda?
Second. Motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none. My two island guys over there. So moved. All right. All right, with consent agenda going, so we'll go right on into the city manager report. Lance, you want to take over?
Yep, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The item 4A is we've received a letter from John Hofstad, the county administrator, and the county is looking for support and participation from the city of Destin in developing a comprehensive countywide attainable housing strategic plan through a study. I think that the county would love for us to participate. There's no requirement for us to pay anything for this or contribute anything for it, but if we wanted to, if the council so desired, we could help offset the costs of this, as it should benefit Destin in some way. I can tell you that the city of Crestview, I believe, has committed $5,000 to the project. So anything along those lines that the county wants council wants to consider, I'm sure the county would appreciate, but like I said before, it's not required for us to contribute to participate in this process.
All right, thank you. So before we get into discussions, if I can entertain a motion, then we can get into the fun part.
Lance, what's the motion that needs to be said, basically, as far as what you want us to do?
I think if the council wants to designate some funds from the contingency, then you would just make a motion with that amount in it. Otherwise, I think it's pretty much an informational item.
Okay.
All right, so I think if anyone's afraid to say an amount, do we just want to open discussion on this then and give you guys an amount and a motion?
I'll make a motion to contribute $5,000 from council contingency fund 015-111-105-99000, council contingency to contribute to Okaloosa County for the development of a comprehensive countywide attainable housing strategic plan.
All right, do I hear a second? So we can open discussion. All right. All right, so with a second, we'll now get into discussion. Do I see, oh, monitor went off. Does anyone want to speak on this? I'm waiting for my monitor to get up. Anyone want to speak? All right, take the floor, Kyle.
Just start from that end.
All right. Button.
Lance, what was the total that Crestview contributed?
What I was told was they did $5,000.
So they did $5,000. What is the total amount that they need to continue?
I believe this
100?
project is estimated at $150,000. And my understanding is the county will fund the whole thing if they have to. They've just asked the municipalities that could contribute to consider contributing.
And this is going to be for affordable housing throughout the county. But where in Destin would that contribute to our citizens?
I think that would be what we would find out in the study. If there are any areas in Destin that would be suitable for this type of thing, or if it would be in the surrounding area.
Right. Okay.
All right, Councilman Dow.
All right, quick question. So, Lance, am I correct? Right now, we already give the Okaloosa County over 60% out of the TDC fund, is that correct? So they gain over 60% of our revenue out of TDC?
I think the bed tax has been estimated that Destin approximately contributes 60, maybe more percent to that fund.
60 plus. And we don't have any dedicated housing. So we don't have any details on what they're considering affordable housing. So even if it's a first-time purchase at a lower rate, it doesn't mean whoever purchases that home can't just sell it for whatever market value is, or we don't know until we get more involved.
I'm honestly not into the details that much on it, but I can certainly find out. I believe that a lot of that is going to come out in the study, though.
Okay, well, it's my opinion that we give a substantial amount to Okaloosa County, and I don't feel that they take care of us enough with the TDC fund as it is. So unless we have a clear-cut plan of how they're going to help the citizens of Destin, I would recommend we don't give anything until they dedicate to us exactly how they're going to help our taxpayers personally.
All right. All right, good. Any other discussions? All right, seeing none, we'll call it to a vote. All right, denied. All right, moving on, number 2.
All right, sir. Item 4B is a proposed ordinance that would prohibit smoking on public beaches and in public parks in the city of Destin. One comment I would like to make is the proposed ordinance does not include the ability for the city to implement designated smoking areas, and I think that that would be an option that the city would want to have in its pocket, should they want to use it, especially for some of the bigger venues where you could designate perhaps a parking lot or a portion of a parking lot where people could smoke. But other than that, it aligns with the county's ordinance, and which is what we need to do. And we, along with the Recreation Committee 10 years ago, approximately 10 years ago, tried to get this through. And we were close, but we didn't get it. So I think this is the right thing to do for our parks.
All right, thank you so much, and I agree. I think this is a no-brainer, and with that, we will, all right, looking for a motion?
I move to direct the city clerk to advertise the ordinance for the first reading as presented, or if changes are requested, then we can modify it by the council.
But just a point of clarification, do you want to include the suggestion by the city
To
manager
parking,
about
like the
designated?
parking lots, for that parking where we could have a designated smoking area. Yes, that would be great.
Okay, thanks.
All right, and I got a one, get a second?
Second.
Thank you. All right, so with the second, discussions, and I'm going to start with, yeah, Councilman Sweet.
One other thing that I would like to add to that is if we could please make it very apparent to all of the short-term rentals and the HOAs that this is not something that we can implement on them, kind of going off of what Lance said. But we've got to find a way for all of the short-term rental companies and the HOAs and developers that have these properties to get on board with it. And so it's clear, no one can walk up to you and say, hey, you can't smoke right there, if you're on a private beach. I just want to make sure that's clear with everyone.
Awesome. All right, Councilman Schmidt?
Thank you. Lance, your suggestion, are we suggesting that we put in the ordinance the ability for us to add that, or that there will be, I want to clarify if we could. What do you think?
Yeah, my opinion is that we should have the ability to create designated smoking areas in parks that council agrees need it.
Okay, so your motion is to have the ability to do it, not necessarily that, like, there will be one.
Correct.
Yes.
But the ability to add designated smoking areas, such as like the parking lot away from the beach or the park.
And then who's gonna designate those areas? Probably Parks Director, Manager.
I'd have Lisa, I would say probably Lisa or the
Ryan.
city manager. They would know what the best area would be to contribute this.
Gotcha.
I think if it's okay with council, I'd word it as city manager or his designee. That way, and you guys would ultimately let him know if you didn't want to do it.
I guess the only thing I would say is that I'd be concerned. I mean, I hope that they would make the best call is, some of the parks are not big, they're smaller, so if you're looking at Leonard Destin Park, for example, I mean, where the designated area anywhere, if you're in the parking lot, you're next to the playground. If you're by the water, you're next to the picnic tables. So, I just hope that if we want to do that we keep that in consideration, that it's not always going to be easy to find a designated area to still get the benefit of hopefully no smoking.
Yeah,
on
and
the
that's where I'm
property.
from. And listen, I'll
So,
compromise
I mean-
a little bit, but yeah, I definitely see the need of allowing us to have the ability. But,
Sure.
in perfect world, I say just no smoking on the public.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. All right, any other discussion? Seeing none, I'm going to call the vote. All right, ayes have it, so moved.
Item 4C, the council asked us to bring back a budget amendment that would fund 2 new full-time positions in the finance department. And we put that together for you, and we have myself and Jamie here and Webb here, if you have questions about that.
Mayor, I move to approve the budget amendment to fund the 2 new full-time positions in the finance department.
All right, got a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, with a second, I'm going to call for discussion. Anyone have anything to say? Hold your peace. All right, call
It's
the
about
vote.
time.
All right, ayes have it, so moved.
Item 4D, council asked staff to bring back recommended adjustments for senior leader compensation based on the study that we had completed last year. Staff has provided those recommendations along with a budget amendment for council's consideration at this time.
Awesome, thank you so much. All right, do I have a motion on the floor? I'm going to make her say all of them tonight.
I'll second that.
Oh, we got to say it first. You
I
want to
move
say
to
it?
authorize the city manager to implement the recommend salary adjustments for senior leaders effective January 21, 2023, and to adopt the attached budget amendment.
I second that.
All right, with the first and a second, any discussions?
Couldn't get mine open. Thanks, John.
All right, seeing no discussions, calling the vote. Ayes have it, so moved. Good deal. Well deserved.
Only announcement was I wanted to remind council that in February, we're only having one council meeting on the 6th because we have several other meetings that will be planned out through that month, including the strategic planning session on Thursday, February the 16th. And that's all I have, sir. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, so moving right along into public hearings. So first off, Cal, take it away.
Thanks, Mayor. This is the second reading of ordinance number 2301CN, an ordinance of the City of Destin, Florida, providing for amendment of sections 2-61 through 2-65 of the city's Code of Ordinances, disposal of surplus property, providing for authority, providing for findings of fact, providing for conflicting provisions, and providing for an effective date, and this is a public hearing.
All right, seeing that it's a public hearing, anyone from the audience have anything to say on this matter? It's a 3-minute public comment section. All right. Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. All right, and then do I have a motion?
Yeah, I move to approve ordinance 2301CN on second reading.
All right. With a
I'll
motion
second it.
And a second. Any discussions? Seeing none, calling the vote. All right, ayes have it, so moved. Okay. Get back to it here. All right, so Kyle, take it away. Number
Thanks
B.
again, Mayor. This is a quasi-judicial hearing. We have Jenkins Engineering on behalf of Old Acre McDonald LLC requesting a major development order and major subdivision application approval of a 66-unit long-term multifamily townhomes development to be located on Palm Street and 98 Palms Boulevard. The existing site is 5.59 acres. Starting with Kevin, I will go ahead and ask you all if you've had any ex parte communications on the matter.
I have not.
None.
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 Thank you, counsel. If applicant, please stand, raise your right hand. Any member of staff who plans on testifying, raise your right hand. And any member of the public who plans on testifying, please stand and raise your right hand. All right, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to provide is the truth? All right, thank you. And with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Kopp.
Thanks, Kyle. We're going to please ask the council to accept the agenda item and all accompanying attachments as city's composite Exhibit A.
And I'm assuming, sir, as the applicant, you have no objection to that entering into the record.
Good?
Good.
Okay, and I will turn it over to Daniel Butler.
Thanks, Kim. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. As Kyle stated, this is a proposal for a 66-unit long-term multifamily townhome development along Palm Street and 98 Palms. So long-term multifamily dwellings are a conditional use within the town center mixed-use zoning district in which this is located. It is worth noting that the conditional use approval was granted by City Council on January 3rd of 2022. The approval of the townhomes use occurred prior to the enactment of Ordinance 2207 LC, which, as we know, requires a non-residential component within all long-term multifamily developments within the town center mixed use. So that ordinance does not apply to this development tonight. As proposed, the development proposes half of the density allowed within the town center mixed use zoning district and meets the height requirements, setbacks, open space, and all other dimensional regulations within the Land Development Code. As Kyle stated, the applicant is also seeking major subdivision application approval tonight. So the final plat approval that they are seeking is running concurrently with the development order application. As required by the Land Development Code, the applicant has provided all of the required guarantees and sureties to staff, and they have been reviewed and approved by the Technical Review Committee. With that being said, staff does recommend City Council approval of the proposed long-term multifamily townhome development 2125 SP and 2126 MS, and staff as well as the applicant is here to answer any questions that you may have.
All right. Say your first and last name and your address, please.
Hey, everybody. Jamie Eubanks with Jenkins Engineering, 73 Egmont Parkway, Fort Walton Beach, Florida. Majority of you were here when we came before you for the conditional land use. We've switched positions here and there, but this is what was before you last time, 66 townhome units. There were a couple minor things, Councilman Destin had one about removing some trees out of the stormwater pond, which we did. May have been Councilman King, I can't remember, asked for some additional visitor parking. So that is one thing we did add. We added about 10 spaces in the center of the site for visitor parking to go above and beyond. And I think the other thing that came up at the last meeting, and it's kind of a giveaway in the name, but short-term is not allowed here. It is strictly long-term. So beyond that, I'll just be happy taking questions you might have.
All right, Councilman Aber?
Thank you, Mayor. I looked through it, it looks fantastic. I know when you came in last year, we were on this end of the day as we were up here. So I was pretty excited because I know that we do need these, types of units. I forgot to find out, is the white that's already being built back there, do yours resemble, because it's going to be built, is it the same dimensional coloring and layout as those that are already there behind where, say, for instance, where the Wyndham is? You know what I'm talking about on that
Sure,
backside?
kind of to the northeast. You're not
Correct.
talking about the vintage Olympus, you're actually, or part of that too, I guess.
Yes, correct. It's
So
sort
this
of like
is-
the same, it carries the same like design, and it's copacetic. It looks nice. It's not like obnoxious.
Correct. So this group is a team of the group that actually sold and worked with the vintage Destin, now the Olympus. It's the group that developed the entire 98 Palms initially back in 98 or so. So it is designed to blend into the Olympus.
Councilman Sweetser?
Yes. I went and walked the property from start to finish. What made you guys set on, what made y'all set on 66 units? Because if you add the additional parking, what green space are you going to have left there? And the main reason that I'm asking is because that's one of the few pieces of Destin that's undeveloped, and it still has a lot of our natural habitat, trees and moss and so forth, so.
Sure. So to be blunt, we're realigning it. So, there's the existing road that kind of snakes through the delivery section of Winn-Dixie, if you will, now. In the area north is primarily probably the most treed area of the site. And that will be removed for the development. Now, the overall impervious open space area is close to a 50-50 blend. It doesn't look like it, but there are large. The intent was to keep the perimeter, especially along the north and the western side, to be green space. And then we do use these for stormwater, but there are some pocket areas in here as well that'll be entirely green. Beyond that, planting 55 new trees. But no, I mean, there will be clearing, make no mistake about it, in order to install it.
Is it possible for you to not clear every tree that's on the property because there are live oaks that are over 30 inches in width at the base?
To accomplish this design, the answer would be no.
Is the owner or you aware of the issues going on with that property at the current moment?
In terms of camping?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Yes.
That's a nice way of saying it.
Camping was a good one, I like that.
Yes, very much so. We dealt with it also when we did the vintage design to the north.
I know the sheriff's department is on it. I just wanted to see
Yes.
if you guys were aware. When I personally wasn't. When I went and walked through the property, it was very saddening to see so much of what I saw. So, okay. Right.
Right. Anything else?
If you could try to keep some of the live oaks on the outer perimeter that you've already designated for the green space.
Okay.
That would be wonderful. Well, that's all I've got on that one. Thank you.
All right. Councilman Spit?
Appreciate it. One of the designs you have here shows a pool where the retention pond is. Is that a
So
retention pond or is that
That,
a pool?
I'm not quite sure what you're looking at, Councilman. That was in our original design. The pool is no longer a portion.
I'm just looking at an overlay, like a black and black image overlay with some semi trucks on it.
Oh, that's a turning analysis that quite frankly probably wasn't updated in the last year. So the pool you're probably talking about in the northwest corner.
It's where the retention pond is on the
Yeah.
other pages.
Correct.
Okay.
That no longer exists at all.
Gotcha. Right. And, and then we're currently at 12.02 dwelling units per acre, and you can put 24 dwelling units. And I'm not an engineer, so does that basically mean you could double
Yes.
what's currently there?
Yes.
Meaning you could put 132 units on that property?
By the
100
numbers,
well,
yes,
approximately.
realistically, it gets a little.
115, 110, or
Yes.
whatever?
The short answer is yes, you could, in theory, do that either vertically, like you see with apartment units to the north. That was vintage.
Right.
And that's how you typically achieve it, is you go
Right.
vertical.
And has there been any other discussion or solutions for, the ingress, egress, 98, the future plan for?
No, Joe Poole with Southern Traffic Services did a study of this area.
It's not needed, right?
And currently it is not needed, you're right. And part of the problem, again, is location to the other access.
Currently, it's not needed, but when we put 150 plus cars back there, it'll probably.
It does analyze it for that, but I would imagine, especially one of the particulars of this item is you have a right-of-way that is going to be platted that will actually connect through to the east, that will allow, what we're talking about to the northeast to actually come through, and you could see them come down, obviously Palm Street, or to the Target light. I would imagine when and if that connection is ever made, that it would probably, just taking a guess, trigger the need for an intersection for a light.
Right. I still personally don't feel that, although it's according to our town center documents, it meets the requirements. Me personally, I feel like it sticks out like a sore thumb to be a long-term residential complex right there. I don't think it meets it, but obviously the document says it meets it, and I get
Understood.
that. But it's just, it doesn't work for me, but I appreciate your information.
All right, thank you so much. Anyone else? All right, seeing none, we'll call to a vote.
Mayor, I think you
move-
got to open up to public
Oh, I'm
comment.
sorry, yeah, go ahead. Yeah. All right, so we'll entertain the motion up. Thank you, sir. So anyone from the public hearing, if anyone from the public wants to come and speak on this? Thank you.
All right.
All right, seeing none, I'll close the public comment section and entertain a motion at this time.
I move that City Council approve Palm Street Townhomes and major development order and major subdivision as presented.
Second.
All right, the first and a second. Any further discussions? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. Matthews, confirm. All right, ayes have it, so moved. All right. Let me get back to my cheat sheet. All right, thank you so much. All right, so we're all ready to comments, presentations. Councilman Sweetser, do you have anything for us tonight?
I wasn't able to put this on the agenda yet because I'm still working on it. However, I am in the works with a few people working on a program for people of disability of any nature across the spectrum, whether you're a child to an adult. There aren't many resources in the city for that at the moment. Most of the children that live here that are of disabled capacity have to go to Fort Walton, Silver Sands, which causes a huge strain on the parents, on top of the needs of the child, the drive, the time, and so forth. So the main thing that I would like to get across is I would like to get a program started. We're in the works of it. And if anybody that's watching tonight or knows anything in that regard to any type of programs, grants that has to do with children, teenagers, adults, even seniors of disability to join in and help me get this program going, I would appreciate it. And that's all I've got.
Thank you so much.
And please email me.
Good. All right, Councilman Guile.
Thank you very much. I would like to request council sanction a short-term rental impact committee. Now, I recognize that we already had a short-term rental committee in the past, but what we're looking at now is an actual impact committee that determines how we feel, how the local citizens feels it's impacted their community and their daily lives. So some of the things that I've run into or that I've noticed or people that I've talked to, the HOAs, during the HOA meetings, are having complaints and issues that potentially how it's affecting their local districts or their local communities. I've spoken with the managers at Bed Bath & Beyond and Best Buy. Their issues are that some of this community are coming in, purchasing the products and then returning them before they leave because there's a mandatory 14-day or allowable 14-day return policy. So I kind of ran into that. I bought my daughter a cappuccino machine. When I opened it, it was used, called the manager, he explained it to me. I then began to talk to Best Buy. They said they're having the same issue. So when you're trying to buy your kids Xbox or PlayStation, whatever you're trying to do, these short-term, we believe it's a short-term rental community, is purchasing those because they know they're leaving in 14 days before that 14-day return policy, and they're returning those items before they actually are required to keep the purchase. And so what I'd like to recommend, and this is just strictly a fact-finding, this isn't for making legislation or additionally changing regulation. There's no code regulation direction according to this committee, but what I'd like to propose is a 7-team committee, 3 residents, local residents that live north of 98, 3 local residents that live south of 98, and 1 representative that is in the CAM or Realtor field. Since this isn't a legislation committee, I don't believe it requires any type of 50-50 representation. This is just determine how it's impacting our community and our citizens as a whole. Additionally, I would like to nominate Patty Brown as the chair. I've been speaking with her very diligently about this. She has long-term rentals. She has rentals. She has experience with rentals. She's also a local that lives in Crystal Beach area that's being impacted by this substantially. And I would like to also recommend that we have 3 staff members kind of guide this committee, one being Kim Kopp, our land use attorney, Lewis, and the code compliance director, to help guide them on producing the information to us or toward us. That's basically what I'm asking right now. It's just that we can determine how these rentals are actually affecting our daily lives for our local citizens.
All right. Thank you so much. Do we need to establish kind of more of a process, housekeeping? Do we need to establish it and then allow for his nominations, or can we make the motion with this whole blanket?
I think ultimately you guys are going to probably need a resolution that puts it all together.
Yes.
But tonight, I think you can just decide if you want to go forward with it, direct us to come back at the next meeting with the resolution, and then you can approve those details at that point.
Awesome, gotcha. All right, so Ray, do you have that in a motion form, or does he need to? All right, so if you remember all of that, can I hear a second? And then we can discuss. All right, so with a second, Mr. King?
I like the idea of a short-term rental task force. I would like to see a resolution before making a. Okay, I was just making sure we're all on the same page there. Thanks.
All right, good deal. Any other? Seeing none, going to a vote. Short-term rental task force. Resolution.
It's an impact committee, not a task force.
All right, sorry. You got me on that task force. All right, it's approved. Ayes have it. All right.
Thank you.
All right, let's see. All right, so Councilwoman Aber.
First of all, under my name, I want to put something on what Gary was talking about. Lance, can we direct you, can I ask that you go forward with what we approved last year of the $50,000 for hiring this group to come in and do the survey for our town center use. So,
I'll second that.
okay,
Yeah.
motion, second,
Yeah,
okay.
you absolutely have the power for that.
This is my job, and I hate it sometimes.
There you go. Yeah, come on.
The Consultants Competitive Negotiation Act relates to any design work. It includes survey work and that kind of stuff that the city would procure. And if the anticipated construction cost is north of $4 million, then it requires the city to go out to an RFQ process, which is a lengthy process. I'm not exactly clear what this group would do, but it sounds like it's probably something in the design realm, and it most likely falls under that Consultants Competitive Negotiation Act. The only way around the CCNA is for projects less than $4 million, and then you can use your existing continuing service contractors, which we do on occasion.
Okay. So with that, how long would the process be for the RFQ?
I mean, most RFQ processes take 4 to 5 months.
Okay.
Could it,
All right, Councilman Schmidt?
Wait a minute, Louis, can you speak
There
to
you go.
this?
yes, I certainly can. We are, Kyle is right. We have to go through an RFQ process, and we are in the process right now of preparing that. I think it will be released end of this month or early next month.
So it's going to be at the next council meeting?
If the city council wants to see the RFQ, but we're just going to go ahead and release it.
Okay.
So this is going to happen, we're not able to just direct this company to take this on. We have to wait for the process?
By law, we can't just do it.
Okay.
Because of the cost of the process,
Yeah.
like Kyle was saying, because it's likely going to be $4 million or more, and it falls within design, which is under that CCNA Act, that's why.
Councilman Schmidt and then Sweetser.
Ms. Abear, would you be interested or considering making a motion to do exactly what you said, to do it based upon further research from our city attorney in conversation with these people to see if it will be a legal issue with this .974 code of whatever, the consultant thing. And if it isn't, to then have an RFQ immediately sent out by the end of January.
I'll make that adjustment to my motion.
All right. And you got a second?
I just want
All
to
right.
make sure we're just going to ask the company what they're doing. If it is legal for them to go ahead and do it, we'll hire
Sorry,
them.
all right, that's my thought.
And then
I like
if
that.
it's not legal for them to do it,
RFQ to go out by
RFQ.
end of the
Okay.
month.
Yes, I would like to do that like tomorrow, make that phone call to that company and get them in on it immediately, so we know whether we're going to be dragging this out for 2 more weeks. So that's my motion.
we got the
Still in
substitute?
second.
All right, so,
That's my motion, I've
Motion.
corrected it,
Yep.
so.
and then the substitute's okay with that? All right. All right, Councilman Sweetser and then Guile.
Yes. Teresa, thank you. We discussed this a few years ago when we were both on Parks and Recreation. In my travels over the years, I've seen so many of the larger, nicely well-maintained cities, most of their utility boxes they have a wrap or they're painted with.
Right. Oh, hold up, second.
We're not talking about the utility boxes, we're talking about having the company come in and design what they did in Alpharetta, Georgia, to do our town center, give us a design of what they could do with the public area. That's what we're getting the $50,000 for. I'm not on my agenda items yet.
Yep, you're one
Okay,
ahead.
where did I lose myself?
You're one ahead. You're just one ahead. That's her next.
Okay.
Yes.
This is Gary's discussion.
Yeah, this is
Okay.
0 dot, yeah, not 1 dot.
Disregard.
Yeah. Councilman Guile, did you have anything?
No, sir.
All right. All right, so we have the motion. Does everyone understand the motion on the table? All right, call the vote. All right, ayes have it, so moved. All right, we're moving along with that. That's awesome.
Okay, sorry now, Matthew, I'm on my first item. Thanks, Gary, for bringing that to us, and hopefully we can get their buy-in that they can accomplish this legally, and we can get the design so we can start on it sooner. I hate that, don't you? I hate those law, they got it. Exactly. But under my name, the utility box paint project update, I know we're doing some wraps, and I think Louis, your team, you have already told me that instead of waiting for all of them on 98 for the undergrounding, we're going to pick a couple within the city limits of like the Kelly and Main Street where that box is that's not owned by FPL. It's owned by like Cox Cable and another one, so getting their permission to wrap that, and then maybe one in the Kelly Plantation, not Kelly, Kellair. So is that still on the mindset from your department?
Yes, correct. And if you would like, we can do a little presentation that I've asked the city
Yes.
engineer to put together for you. Okay.
Yes, please do. I know you did a lot of work on that, so please show us how nice it's going to be. Hate for all that PowerPoint work to go to waste.
I was hoping it was self-explanatory, but okay. So can I go to the next slide? Do I? Oh. All right. So throughout the city, it looks like generally there's like FPL, there's Cox, CenturyLink, also called Lumen. We got Okaloosa DOT, and then we got some FDOT equipment throughout the city. There's probably some other smaller companies around, but those are the general ones. So I reached out to them. And in this package, we have FPL's like application process. And they have pre-approved screenings that we can use. And then they have an application process for each one. So once we get this thing screened, then it's on Public Works to maintain it. So if a door gets replaced on something, we have to rewrap the whole thing. You can't patchwork these. So there's that to take into consideration. Talk to Cox. They did not seem acceptable to it, but they said they'll run it up the chain and get back to me. So I'm waiting back for that. Lumen said the same thing. They said they've never been asked that before, so they're running it up the chain, but then I talked to them because they're the ones at the intersection of Kelly and Main for Colton. And I talked to them specifically about that and why we want to do that and do a custom wrap for that. And he said they might be agreeable to that one if they don't have a policy allowing them to do everything else.
Well, we all know that once you do one and they look nice and the buy-in is there, then they realize, oh, this is a nice thing.
Yeah, and they were kicking back with excuses as to why not to allow it. When FPL allows it, they were kicking back on heat. Like the heat, it'll stop it from being able to breathe. Well, I said FPL's equipment is just as hot, if not hotter than yours, and they allow it. So we're going back and forth. We're trying to work that out. The Okaloosa DOT stuff, they said they're fine with whatever. And then FDOT does have a two-part application process to allow for it. So FPL, they have their pre-selected wrappings. So this is one of their options. Here's another option, and another. And the fun ones, Sunset, and Sea Life. So I'm not sure if we want to look at these options and kind of phase the city.
That's all they offer for the wraps?
That's their pre-approved wraps, yes.
You have to give them designs and they have to approve it. So in other words, if you created one with deer on it, like for Kellair, they would have to approve it so that it was copacetic to their box and what they want and how it looks. So they're basically letting you put leaves on it because it just still blends in, right, Ryan?
Yeah, like these are the more camouflage options. So I'm not sure, we haven't really discussed with them like custom ones. FPL is very picky about almost anything and everything, so that could be a whole nother conversation with them. So what we're kind of doing is I did here's the Colton intersection one for Lumen, and they said they would work with us, but for like phase one, this is going to be kind of time consuming as go through, and I highlighted kind of what I consider like the main corridor streets. To go through and kind of pinpoint some boxes. So we're gonna have to pinpoint some of them, figure out who owns them, if it's even allowed to be wrapped, and then of course all the costs associated with this. So that's kind of our stab at phase one of this, to get released to do that. So we broke it into kind of two phases for a course of action. And I can read that, but I don't want to try from that far. So for phase one, we just want to move forward trying to see if Lumen can work with us on the custom Colton wrap. and then go through those streets, unless you guys want to add some or take some of those streets off the list, and kind of pinpoint and come back with a number of them that can be wrapped and kind of all the cost associated and maintenance needed for those. And then phase 2 would be kind of whatever we learn from phase 1 can get implemented into all the US 98 underground process. And we can just roll right into that when that comes
Perfect.
up. So that is pretty much all that I have.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the update and I appreciate the pursuant, I know it's not an easy task. We thought it would be, We thought we could get somebody in here as an artist and paint them, and you just don't know how hard something is until you start looking into it, and then everyone that's got their hands in on it. So thank you, Louis, Ryan, for your diligence on trying to make this happen. And if we can do 3 or 4 boxes, I would just pick 3 or 4, get that started, and then let people see it, and the buy-in might come from that. Okay? Thank you.
All right, Councilman Sweetser, any discussion on that?
Yes, for the corner of Kelly and Main Street, the Colton corner, there is a girl who filters things that goes to the parents. I did mention this to her, and she would love to get involved with us once we get the ball rolling on
Louis,
that.
had you gotten her number yet, or do you want Matthew to get with you after the meeting and give you this?
Yeah, I certainly would appreciate getting the number so we can.
Okay,
reach out to the family.
I'll email you over her phone number. Just everyone kind of agrees that corner, it would be nice and it needs to be spruced up and made permanent. I do, before we really go forward on a lot of this, would like to know what it's going to cost for the wraps that are not included. Because, I mean, aside from the one fish-looking one, none of those say Destin.
And you guys are coming back before we proceed with all this?
Yeah, if you authorize us to do that, we certainly will come back with the costs, including maintenance, and then we'll go from there.
All right. Anything else?
Yeah, I think that they should definitely be more Destin-oriented, fishing, you name it, and just kind of go from there and make the options of what's going to go where off of what area of Destin it's in.
All right, thank you. All right, so with that, do I hear a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to have city manager, have his staff pursue at least 4 of the boxes and pricing, and let us know as far as what it is, get back to us by the first meeting in February? Is that doable, Louis?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. With a motion on the floor, do I hear a second? Second? All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, call the vote. All right, ayes have it, so moved. All right,
Thanks, Louis.
Hey, we could always put our own boxes on our own right away and then put our own design on it. You don't have to ask anybody for any permission. Thought?
oh,
Okay, so my next, the next thing I wanted to ask about was the 200,000 state, that was given, that Representative Maney helped us get. Can you give everyone, Jeff, the update you gave to me about where we're at with that and the challenge that that's been for you to get that finished?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. Right now, we've been working with all the stakeholders for the linear park, and FPL is one of those stakeholders. We originally presented the idea to them, and this is not a new idea. I know Gulf Power had been involved before, but FPL had yet to weigh in on this. So we've been talking with them, going back and forth, and they said that there's equipment locations in that area that they plan on doing in the future that would be, might interfere with what we're planning. So we've been getting that information from them, and we've changed our design, conceptual design, and we've sent that back to them for their opinion. Once we get that back and we have a consensus that we can move forward, we'll develop that RFQ and release it, which hopefully can be done in the very near future.
Thank you, and thanks, Mayor, that's all I have.
thank you so much.
But happy birthday, Mayor.
I got a question on that, if you don't mind,
Jump
since
in,
we're
yeah.
talking about it.
Please.
The linear park, this is also the one that includes an actual road or a highway or something back there?
There is a road, however, the part we got the appropriation for is just the park design. But at the same time we do that park design, there is an additional roadway that travels a portion of that area, and I think it makes sense to have that design done at the same time by the same firm, but we would pay for that separately.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, Councilman King.
Nothing for me, thanks.
Thank you. Councilman Schmidt. Yep.
Appreciate it. I got a few things on the agenda and some other things not on the agenda as well, so if y'all could just bear with me. Town Center CRA. Trying to put somebody on the Town Center CRA. 'Cause I really want to get somebody on the CRA. So I guess it's twofold. One, if there's anybody that's listening out there or knows anybody that's interested, I'd gladly love to talk to them and love to appoint them on this committee and have them on the board. Other thing is that you have to be a City of Destin resident. That is a requirement. There's other factors like owning a business in that area or working, I think, maybe in that area, things like that. There's a whole list of them, okay, and I'm fine with that. And I'm probably fine with it being a resident of the City of Destin. But at the same time, I mean, if we continue to have issues finding people, there are a lot of business owners in that area that don't live in the City of Destin, but that own those properties. I mean, there's people that pay more taxes, than some city residents and insurance and everything right there in that Town Center CRA. That's not a City of Destin resident. So part of me almost thinks like maybe we should reconsider or think about in the future adjusting the resolution to change that for future discussion. My first plea is if there's anybody out there that's interested in Town Center CRA that wants to take an active monthly meeting, I think it's once a month at minimum, then I would love to have them. But also the resolution thing, maybe in the future, if anybody's interested in talking about that, we could talk about that.
Kyle, do you know off the top of your head the requirements for the Town Center CRA committee? Is it work? What is that stipulation?
Ray, I know you keep those. I don't know if you know them off the top of your head.
He sent it to me today, so he's probably got it.
Yeah.
Okay, for membership to the Town Center CRA, you have to be a Destin resident, and you have to meet one other additional qualification. You can be an employee within the district. If you own property within the district, if you live within the district, you're in. And then there's a couple of others.
Okay. Right.
However, a couple of years ago, this previous council approved a resolution allowing 3 at-large members.
At large, okay.
That the only qualification is for them to be a resident of the City of Destin, and not the additional, qualifications. And I believe if we have to change that, I think it would require amending the ordinance, because the ordinance require you to be a resident of the city at least, before you can be a member of any committee or board.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ray.
Sounds good. So if you have anybody or if anybody knows anybody, that'd be fantastic. Any update on the punch list items on the new park on the harbor?
My understanding is the contractor is getting with the building department to ask for a final inspection, at which time we'll identify the items that still need done, and that should be happening in the very near future.
Were we told at the last meeting that the punch list item inspection was happening like that week?
There was an inspection done, but it wasn't at the request of the contractor. It was one that we did ourselves, and the contractor is now saying that he's ready for a final inspection.
Okay, so this is now his request. Okay. Gotcha. When is that coming up, Jeff?
I don't know if it's been scheduled yet. He's been given instructions to do that, so the ball's kind of in his court as to when he makes that arrangement. My understanding is it should be very soon.
And are we still seeking like litigation issues or anything with these people right now, or?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, we're just on hold,
Yeah, I mean, unless another issue were to arise, there's no legal action that we're looking at.
There's nothing pending or any letters of
No.
lawsuit coming?
Yeah, nothing, no like pending letters we're waiting for action or anything at that point.
Okay, gotcha. All right, and then the Calhoun part, how did we go on the plans, receiving them, getting them to the county?
Are we, sorry.
Any further along?
I'm supposed to be getting a set of plans from Jenkins. It was supposed to be last week, so hopefully this week to review. And then I can give you a better update after that.
Okay. Clement Taylor Park, yes, sir, sorry. Clement Taylor Park, I apologize. All right. Next is the harbor capacity stakeholders meeting. We talked about it at the last meeting, got brought up. I had a lot of comments, questions, concerns about the way that was being done. I spoke to some people that were both there. I talked to some people that also were not there. I've heard good things about the meeting. I've also heard some questionable bad things about the meeting in the stance of kind of what I was saying at the last council meeting of we're in the 2-minute warning of the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl and we're trying to now bring the stakeholders together before a report's put together within 2 weeks. And I still feel very strongly that I disagree with that entire process that was done, whether it was by our staff or by the Corps of Engineers. I think it was the complete wrong way to do it, and I had plenty of stakeholders tell me the same thing. I was frustrated and upset that that meeting wasn't publicized. It wasn't listed on our city website. It wasn't posted on Facebook. I have homeowners that live on the harbor, had no idea about it. I have business owners that live on the harbor, had no idea about it. And this is supposed to be the be-all, end-all study that we've been talking about for years, that we spent $250,000 of general fund money to do. And this was the stakeholders meeting that happened at the very last 2 or 3 weeks of it. And I don't know if there, it's a rhetorical comment, I guess. If there is something I'm completely missing, that's fine. But the people that I've spoken to, stakeholders, are just as frustrated and upset about the process. And so I look forward to that report coming very soon. I think other council members do too. So do we know when that final report is finally coming? Is it end of January?
It's always been end of February.
End of February?
Correct. We can certainly find out what happened as far as the notification process is concerned. It was publicized as far as the newspaper is concerned. I'm not so sure about our city's website.
It was publicized in the newspaper?
Yeah, it was noticed in the newspapers. Let our deputy city manager speak to the website issues.
Okay. I know a lot of people are canceling newspapers, so I think we talked about that a long time ago, about looking at other options. So hopefully we can look at other options sooner than later. Awesome. Next item, helicopters. I asked to speak about helicopters tonight, specifically about the flying around, the long issues that a lot of people have been complaining about for a long time about helicopters. Sightseeing activities and whatnot. We've heard in the past that we've tried these things before, but I've yet to find any action that we've ever taken as a city. I've heard we've talked about it. I've heard that the FAA said we can't do anything about it, but I've never seen that in writing. I've never seen anything. I've spoken to many people, both in the city and the non-city areas, that feel very similar about this as well, and have been a constant complaint. I think Jim talked about in the past that it was the #1 complaint going on when he was running for re-election or something. So there's 2 things I'd like to do tonight in regards to this, actually 3. And I'm going to do it in motion form, so if y'all could bear with me. The first thing I'd like to do is I'd like to get the city attorney and city manager to prepare a resolution and bring back to us at the next meeting that shows the displeasure, the dislike, and the disfavor of the sightseeing aviation aircrafts in and near the city of Destin area, and present that resolution to all League of Cities, other communities, and everything.
All right.
So that's a motion, and if nobody wants to second
Do I
it,
hear
that's
a
fine
second?
too.
Kevin, do you want to go individually, 1, 2, 3?
Yeah, one at a time.
Yeah, that's fine.
Perfect.
All right, motion, and I got a second from Councilman King. Any discussion? Do we have any background history on this? Have we done this? Can we copy and paste that letter?
For the resolution? No, we haven't done this exact resolution, but
Okay.
I did talk to Councilmember Schmidt about it. It's an option we can do.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Any other discussions?
So it is an option. I thought that because they are not in the Destin city limits, that we, aside from
So
the
we're
air
not,
rights.
we're not going to pass an ordinance trying to regulate anything. It's just a resolution that we can forward copies of to the county or to lobbyists or whoever, or we can just pass it here. That just expresses the council's opinion on it. It is not in our jurisdiction, so we would not be regulating them. It's
That's what I
just
thought.
like stating our position for the public or for the county or anyone interested.
I thought that we had done that already. Gary?
City
can-
clerk,
can
have
you
we
add-
passed a helicopter resolution?
That's what we all believe, but.
Either way.
I don't believe so, but I'll double check.
I don't remember that, but we'll check.
All right, any other discussions? Seeing none, calling the vote. Let me vote on something. Yeah, all right. I just have it so moved.
Next thing, back in.
Your mic's off.
Thank you. That's not too often for me. Thank you for doing that. Back in, January. No, sorry. Back in August, we made a motion to direct staff and city attorney or attorneys to go find out some information about the property where a business is operating helicopter operations. And we sent some questions, they provided some feedback. We sent some follow-up questions within 24, 48 hours, and we finally got them 2 days ago, after multiple attempts to get answers. And what the answers that were provided to us, basically, the way I read it, is that, I can't figure out how to use this email thing here. Basically, the allowable usage is only for one helipad and one helicopter. According to the county's allowable usage at that property. That was the question I was trying to get answered for 6 months. There's two, in case you haven't seen it, there's a second helipad. Maybe that's not what it's called, but there's a second something out there. It's supposed to be for a future hangar maybe one day, but that's not currently approved, I believe, and that's not currently what it's being used for. If you go out there today, there's not a second helicopter out there, but there's pictures and evidence of two helicopters operating at this property. If the county doesn't know about it, I feel like they need to know about it. I feel like we have been trying to notify them, and other people have as well. And for one reason or another, they're not taking the corrective action that should be taken. If somebody was building something in the city of Destin, and it was against violation or usage, and somebody complained, we have the staff, they would do the proper process to violate and go through that. But for some reason, can't get this to happen over there. So, my second motion for the night is I'd like to direct the city manager to file an official inquiry with Okaloosa County in regards to allowable usages on the property on Commons Drive that operates as a helicopter business, specifically in regards to 2 helipads and 2 helicopters being stored and used on the property.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, calling the vote. Ayes have it, so moved.
Awesome. And the last one is I make a motion to direct the city manager to work with the attorneys to bring back in 6 weeks the formal ways the city of Destin can file a complaint with the FAA.
Second.
All right. Just going to call the vote on that one. All right, ayes have it, so moved.
Fantastic. Thank you all for working with me on that one. The next one is Legion Drive traffic study. I spoke with Mr. Burgess this week, last week. He calls me whenever some of the items are pertaining to him, and I always appreciate it, so thank you, sir. I've had residents on both sides of Legion and in the neighborhoods right off of Legion. I'm talking about specifically between Beach and Main Street. Nearly getting hit in the crosswalks. I've had also complaints about the traffic that backs up heading east towards Main Street, towards Airport Road, because when you get to the light, it is one lane going straight, I believe. One lane going straight to, and you have a only left turn and an only right turn. So traffic is being backed up and literally blocking almost 3/4 of Legion, where there's at least 2 to 3 neighborhood apartment complexes and so forth, of cars trying to get out. That's also the very future road that a crosstown connector will hopefully connect to, one day. But we don't know exactly, if or when that'll happen, but hopefully it will. So it's only going to get worse, I believe, in the future. It's only going to get worse, that road, that speed. So first, I want to let Michael, if you could, please tell everybody what is coming in regards to speed devices on that road. If we could start with that. I think you mentioned that to me.
I think the one thing I did mention to you is council approved the purchase of some lighted pedestrian crossings several months ago, and the major components of that system actually arrived this morning. So the guys are actually putting them together now, and we're going to be installing one of those at one of those mid-block crossings on Legion. But we did talk about resurfacing Legion at some point down the road and restriping it, and our options there. But that's something I could certainly consult with the city engineer about, kind of moving forward with maybe some, if we want to take a look at a kind of a holistic view, current and future conditions for Legion, get with him on that.
So the one thing you did tell me was that there's one device coming, and that's going to be installed in that area.
Thankfully,
For sure,
it is
we know
here.
that.
Yes,
Right.
it is here. There's going to be 3 of them. Just for you, if you ride up and down Airport Road, and it's just my shameless plug, if you ride up and down Airport Road right now, you'll see some cones sitting adjacent to some of the pedestrian crossings. We have 4 systems. They all came, the important parts of it showed up today. But we'll be installing 3 sets of those on Airport and 1 on Legion. And then we'll move on to phase 2.
Great, okay. So that's going to be great, and I appreciate it. But what I still would like to do is I'd rather go ahead and get a speed study done sooner than later, whenever we talk about a crosstown connector is actually being built, to go ahead and take a proactive approach to preparing for current issues and future issues coming. So I could throw that motion out there. Did you want to add something before I say anything, or?
Yes, if we could please add Kelly Street
One at a time.
to that study, please.
Well, hey, you want to throw a motion afterwards, so let's do one street at a time.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you, Mr. Sweetser. So for now, if I could, I'll direct the city manager, make a motion, direct the city manager to provide a speed study on Legion Drive between Beach and Main Street within 4 months, to provide potential speed reducing mechanisms along Legion, as well as to provide data on lane signal change going east towards Main Street based on current and future use.
I got a motion on
Does
the
that
floor.
give you a good idea, Michael, of a speed study kind of thoughts, or engineer?
Second.
Got a second? Any further discussions on that? All right, seeing none, calling the vote.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I'm just, sorry to interrupt, but funding-wise, you want us to pursue some funding options and bring those back for the study?
I would say that's you want the fund studies to be considered?
Do we don't have funds available for speed studies on a mile-long road, or what are we talking? We need to allocate contingency funds for that?
Can we bring back a recommendation at the first meeting in February?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, if you'd like to.
Councilman King? Vote. Oh, no, that is you. All right, ayes have it, so moved.
Awesome, thank you so much. Next item I have is code enforcement inconsistencies. I think it's no secret that we've been talking about code enforcement, regulations and issues and positive stuff, negative stuff, complaints, proactiveness, reactiveness. We've had, at recent meetings, we've had requests for, waivers of the fines and things like that. I know we've gone through two, in my time here and others, we've gone through two directors of code department. And one was short, very short, and then now we're pursuing the third one. And so there's just always been discussions going on about code. We get an email where you'll have a property owner email the city council and staff about getting warnings on their cars because they parked in the right of way on one day. That they do this every week for a Bible study, he says, and so they do this every week. One night they get warnings and violations, but then a few properties down, it's happening and nobody's getting the violations. Or you have one street that has massive violations all the time, but yet we don't do anything. Is it because we're not taking a proactive approach? Is it because we're selectively enforcing things? I'm not sure if I have that answer. I have thoughts and opinions on it. I have some examples. Were y'all able to get the pictures? I wanted to go through a few examples if I could, and the city attorneys can stop me if I get too far down any line. So that right there, that's a good start one, right? That is the corner of Seibert and Zerby, I believe. We're probably familiar with the property behind McGuire's. That is, we approved not too long ago a future parking garage, which I think we're all very excited to get there. You probably all know, because y'all probably drive past it just as like I do. It's a parking lot for restaurant workers and employees. And across the street, you'll see probably 30, 40 feet is a city parking lot where we write tickets for people that don't park, that don't follow the rules. The blue line right there is actually the property line. Everything outside the blue line would be considered the city right-of-way. Would that be a correct assumption? So by code, you're not allowed to park in the city right-of-way. Was that a correct statement for our code people? So I'm not sure what order they're in, I apologize, but I got a couple other ones that might give you some examples. Just in case. Now we'll get to that one in a little bit. Keep going. Right there you go. So that, as you can see, we're 1.5 feet away from the street. So we're in direct violation 2 hours ago, right? Not only is it a violation, but it's a safety issue. I mean, you're literally 2 feet away from people driving, which I believe is one of the reasons why you have a code that says don't park in the right-of-way, because it could cause problems like that. Okay, can we go to another picture, please? If you travel down Misty Way, I had some neighbors, I had people at the other end of Misty Way towards Main Street. They say that they try walking their dogs and walking down this neighborhood, and every morning and every afternoon and every evening, they can't do it. Every day, morning, day, and night, they have to walk on the street because there's at least 3 pictures here that shows cars blocking the sidewalk, cars parallel parking in the grass. And I've talked to some people about it, and I've heard, Mr. Schmidt, we have a lot of people that live here. We moved here a long time ago. We had no kids. Now we have kids. We have a lot of cars. And I hear that. But you're also causing direct violations with the city of Destin's codes. You're not following what we say we're enforcing. We're not following what our code department enforced a quarter mile away for doing something very similar, not even on a daily basis. I asked for code warnings and violations on this street for the past 6 months. I think there was a list of about 6 or 7 violations. 2 or 3 of them were building violations. A couple of them were parking in the right-of-way. I'm pretty sure we have city officials that drive through that street more often than that. Are we choosing not to stop? I don't know. I guess we're not, because they're on their way to somewhere else, possibly.
Can we answer that? Danny, you want to Wayman, or
I mean, if
city
you're
manager?
welcome to.
Just kind of for people listening is,
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. So basically, a lot of the things, because it does also say in our code, temporary. So you're allowed to temporary park in the right of way. You're also temporary to park. Any issues that, parking violations that occur, I mean, that's what the whole idea of having the city help desk is, to let us know. And since a lot of my officers, the officers that we had, they weren't parking authority certified. So now all the officers are now able to write parking citations. And we have no issues, to go out there, just to go out there just with all the officers, be able to speak to the residents and let them know where they're allowed to park and where they're not allowed to park. And I know a lot of problems with Misty Way as well, because back in when Joey was still the active director, I actually went down there and I've warned a lot of people when we had the red cars, be able and explain to them, hey, you can't park in the city right away. You can't, just to give them the idea of what they're allowed to do. And like you said, Councilman Schmidt, you got a lot of families that you have kids that have more than 2 vehicles, and you guys know as well as I do, the garages are not technically garages. It's their study halls. They could be their gym. They could be their storage units. And a lot of the main things is if you park a big old F-150 or 250 in Misty Way, I mean, that truck's going to block the sidewalk. It's automatically going to block the sidewalk. So that becomes a problem. And I understand, our pedestrians, our citizens, they have the right to walk on the sidewalk free and clear. But we have no issues, and I will definitely reach out to the guys, and we will definitely go down Misty Way, and we'll definitely educate the people down there and let them know where they're allowed to be and where they're not allowed to be.
and then just a specific question then. So right now, our code compliant is you have to make a complaint and then you guys respond. It's
Correct.
not
No.
proactive.
If we're down there, we're of course, I mean, if there's a violation, there's absolutely a violation. But the problem is how the code reads is temporary.
Mhm.
So if they're not parked overnight, if they're not parked, if it's an excessive, then how do you define temporary? Could it be 2 hours, 3 hours? That's of course, that's when discretion kind of kicks in. And if it's the same violation, the same vehicle that you can see all the time, that's sitting there, absolutely, that does need to be addressed.
Thank you. Mr. Guile.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
I've got just a couple things to bring up. So I've actually met with code enforcement several times, especially since they lost their director. So there's nobody leading that charge as much as we need. We have staff members that are trying to do that as much as possible. But in 2021, we had approximately 1,965 calls. In 2022, we had 3,461 calls. So that's an increase of approximately 76%. There's some months there where we have 531, 512 calls for just those 5 or 6 gentlemen to try to manage, even though they still don't have a city director in place. Approximately each call is going to take about 2 hours. You have about an hour to drive, deal with that particular situation, an hour to drive back, and begin reporting. Reporting takes about another hour, so you're looking at a 2-hour total time frame for these individuals to take care of those situations. On top of that, they're also obligated to respond when the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Department needs assistance based off code compliant issues or other issues of that nature. So I think that there's a big, I'm sorry?
Staffing issue.
Right. There's a big staffing issue. There's a big issue altogether with trying to hold somebody to a precise answer on why certain things aren't being addressed. But in a previous committee meeting, when I was just a citizen sitting out there, I remember this council talking about addressing this during the visioning session. So as far as enforcement priorities. So if right now the enforcement priority is calls take precedence and we don't have the manpower staffing to manage the amount of calls that are coming in now, at what point do we say, okay, calls don't take precedence. Now, if you see something on the way to a call, also stop and address that. I think this is something we need to address in the visioning and planning meeting in February and determine how we set or stipulate that precedence, personally.
Awesome. All right, yeah, jump in.
I'll start there, then I'll finish off that presentation if I could. So, no, you're good. I'll respond to that because it
You
makes
have questions,
sense,
we're gonna
right?
answer the
We have a
questions.
vision session. We'll be sitting here for 8 hours or however long we want to sit here because that's what we get to do. And then we'll talk about that, okay? We will say that's what our priority is. And then we'll put, it'll leave that room and we'll put some dots on a board and things like that. And then a few months later, we'll get a draft piece of paper that talks about priorities, and then a few months later, we'll vote on it and things like that. I hear you, but we don't have to do prioritization or direction or discussion for some things that have been going on for years. I get it's a staffing problem, but my issue is what I just heard Mr. Sullivan say is because we got the quarterly report not too long ago, and there was a lot of parking tickets on that quarterly report. So if you are 20 feet away at our city lot writing tickets, and you look over, it sounds like they're making I'm not sure what the word you said was that you're using, but they're making a decision to say, well, that's probably just temporary, we're gonna let them park there. It's across the street, so staffing should be an issue because I'm right here writing tickets. Should I go put warnings on those as well, right? Did you? Sure.
Yes, Mr. Schmidt. So I understand where you're coming from with the pay to park. So you don't have to be certified parking authority to write a pay to park citation through our app system that we have. So the officers, like I said, they just recently have
So you're telling me you have to be certified to put a warning to violation on a car that's parked in the right of way? You have to be certified to do that?
No, I'm talking about to actually write them a fine citation. I can't, the officers, just the whole idea, yes, should they have addressed that? 100%.
Right, that's fine. I appreciate the information, Danny, but it's to me, that's just that. If you're sitting here writing a violation for unpaid parking ticket and you look across the street and you see somebody violating a parking, you go put a warning on their car. Just because they're temporarily parked on Misty Way, blocking the citizens who also have a right to that, we're going to temporarily let them do it because it's only temporarily. I don't think that's the right way to do it. So I'm going to throw this out there, and it's okay if I don't have the support. I completely understand. But I'd like to direct the city manager to begin immediately implementing a proactive code enforcement and regulation policy to include warnings and stops being proactive in definition rather than complaint-based only.
All right, I got a motion on the table. You can second it and discuss. And
I'll
still
second
say
it.
no. All right. So with the discussion, Councilman Sweetser, do you want to still speak on this, or?
Again, I'm just trying to take.
It's a sticky subject. It depends on how much acreage you have in your home. It also depends on whether or not this is commercial or residential. My house, if you look on the property appraiser's site right now, the only space that I have to park and my fiance and with our third car, boat, Sea-Doo, it's all out there in the right of way. Almost every neighborhood through this town has people parking in their own driveway of which they own in the right of way. If they're in their driveway, it's blocking the sidewalk. I live on First Street, not a single neighbor of whom I am close with, all of them have complained. If there's an issue, I think that's with that particular street, but with residential houses, I do not think that we need to come up into someone's front yard and their driveway and a property that they own, regardless of whether it is the right-of-way or not, and give them a ticket. That just does not seem right, and that's not how you treat locals. That's not correct, in my opinion.
Right. Mr. Gao.
I do agree with portions that you said, Mr. Schmidt, and I apologize that it came off as harshly as it did. The only portion that I do contest is that if you hold them to that standard, you can't hold them accountable for not meeting the certain criteria from the call-ins. So we just got to understand that if you are trying to attempt that proactive approach, you can't hold them accountable for not being able to respond to the number of calls that are coming in. So that is more or less my stance. As far as still allowing people to park, and I apologize, Mr. Sweetser, I disagree with that because it's a safety, health, or it's a safety issue in my opinion. You don't want kids going into the middle of a street to avoid being able to go onto a sidewalk. So for me, that's strictly safety. So I will have to disagree with that.
Okay. Let's see. Councilman Schmidt.
Yeah, real quick, sorry. I'm not just directing at cars on sidewalks. I mean, this was towards the parking violation as a parking lot. This is towards trash and garbage. If you go to the last picture I have on here, this is also on Cybert. We're probably familiar with this as we drive by. It's not that one, but you'll get to see the other cars that are not just blocking the sidewalk. Well, we got that one, but that's not, keep going, apologize. Yeah, probably back towards the beginning. So this is a property on Cybert. Yeah, it's pretty tough. So this is all also in the right of way on one side of a fence. And there's actually, after the research that I was provided, there's a lien on the property. It's it's accumulating daily fines and so forth for approximately, I think, 5 years maybe, 3 to 5 years. So it's like that on a daily basis. It's the same violations that another gentleman was having that he's requested to get them waived. But now that I know what's going on here, there's probably future action that the city should look at taking. Because he's already got fines being accumulated. He's not currently under any magistrate hearings or anything like that. It's just a lien or something, right? So it just sits there until the city does the next step, I guess. Would that be?
It's homesteaded, so we can't do the next step of foreclosing it, but if he tried to sell the property or anything like that,
The
then
lien.
he'd have to pay off the lien, and he'd either come here for a reduction request or pay it.
Sure.
The only other thing we could do is we could do an abatement action potentially and go back through the magistrate.
Gotcha.
Anything on the motion?
Nope, that's it. So, yeah, if we want to pass that, fine. If not, we'll continue talking
Anyone
about it every other meeting.
need to hear the motion again? Everyone know what we're voting on? Right. Good luck.
I made it pretty clear.
Yeah, just.
I think I missed the second part, but direct the city manager to immediately implement a proactive code enforcement policy. And may I ask Kevin to repeat the rest of it?
To include warning and stops being proactive in definition rather than complaint-based only.
So just
And that's not just in parking, that's just in general?
just a
That's the
theory.
code. Code.
Okay.
Whatever code.
All right, good deal. All right, calling the vote. All right, ayes have it, so moved.
Fantastic. Last thing I'd like to do, and I know we don't have any couple people here, so it's unfortunate, but I've had issues for a while with staff, some staff members and different things like that. And so I want to respect the people that are not here. And at the next agenda, I'd like to make a motion to add under my name to have discussion on the city manager and the deputy city manager positions, Ray. And I'd like to do that in motion form.
All right, so I have a motion on the table.
Second.
Got a second? Any discussions on this? All right, seeing none, calling the vote. All right, ayes have it, so moved.
And that's all I have, sir.
All right, thank you. I think you're batting 1,000. All right, so I got a couple of things as well. The first one, I don't know if I don't have anything under my name. So the first one, I'm just going to go with the visioning session since we kind of were batting that around. Just kind of a thought bubble out there for the next meeting is our last before the visioning session, I believe. So with that, I just kind of wanted to get everyone's just one thing. If there's one thing you guys want to attack this year outside the time that you put up here on the dais, just I kind of slowly starting to feel out what people are thinking, but really to get clear and concise on what we're really going to be targeting at the visioning session. I think one of the biggest things I want to see is almost a step-by-step with the strategic agenda items that we have, just exactly the crucial points that will eventually make that project complete, and just kind of really seeing it broken out step by step so we can kind of get a big picture on the timeline. And that would be kind of my one thing. So if there's anything specific, code, I know there's a lot of hot topics out there, so just wanted to get everyone's personal one thing you want to really target in on the visioning session. So that's just kind of a housekeeping, throwing that out there. Something that I'm going to be asking for council with is the pickleball. That's on our strategic plan. We've identified a couple areas, and we're at a point point now where we're going to need to ask Kyle to do his legalese, and he felt that it needed to come up in front of a council approval. And so pickleball is a strategic line item, and with that, we found an area that potentially won't need us buying the land. That $400,000 that we've earmarked from, I believe, 2020 was with procurement of the land, the field itself, everything it would take, and we kind of knew then that it wouldn't be enough to complete it all. I'm hoping with this area that we've located, it will be more of a partnership with the Aquatic Center and Maddie Kelly Art Foundation. And so I'm just asking council's approval for Kyle to do his legal jargon, as well as me to go in front of the appropriate boards for approval.
My question is, what's legal jargon and appropriate
Yeah,
boards?
I'm
I'd like
gonna-
to see.
I didn't
what
want to
they're even
put any
talking about,
words
because
into
I have
our
no
lawyer's
idea.
mouth, so Kyle, will you help me out here?
Yeah, I think that I'm just seeking authority to negotiate a deal with the Maddie Kelly Arts Center and with the Aquatic Center.
I'll make
to
that
bring
motion to have
And-
those conversations started with the city manager
And city attorney.
and the city attorney with the Aquatic Center on trying to accomplish getting pickleball started up there at the Aquatic Center on their property, therefore making it a whole lot more affordable for us to do it sooner rather than later.
I'll second.
A second. All right. Schmidt, does that answer your question?
Yeah,
Yeah, I know, yeah, and I didn't want to
Just
say
to clarify,
anything wrong.
any agreement's going to come back to council.
Yeah, it's going to have to come back to us, but there's a third.
This just lets us get the ball rolling.
Yeah, and then for anyone out there, it's going to be three partners, be us, Destin Aquatic Center, and then Maddie Kelly Art Foundation. The foundation owns the land, the Aquatic Center is leasing the land, and so we'll need to get their approval, but of course, it'll come to us for a final say before we move anything forward. All right, so any other discussions on that matter? All right, seeing none, calling the vote. Awesome, ayes have it, so moved. Thank you. And then, so I've gotten several emails with people saying that the new Florida Power and Lights, the LEDs going in, are glaring and blinding. So I know it can be a small group speaking loudly, or maybe it's a group that isn't speaking and they have some people coming to the forefront. But I didn't know if we had anything in place as far as what's too bright. Is there any kind of code or anything of that nature? I'm holding people off at bay, trying to sympathize with them, but I definitely wanted to get some discussion from our city. So Michael, you look like you're nodding over there.
Sure. I've gotten some calls very similar to the ones you've received concerning the new LED streetlight fixtures. Those fixtures those are recommended installations from the DOT lighting specialists, so they're coming, it's not like Michael's picking them out, but they're coming from, yeah, I know, right? The FPL lighting specialist is kind of specifically selecting that feature for that location. Okay. Last Thursday, I purchased a light meter, and we're going to be doing some nighttime surveys of the output of those new fixtures to see how they compare with the manufacturer specifications.
Perfect.
If you ride up here by Bubba Gump, you see all those lights up there have turned purple.
Yes.
So, lights don't always stay within their specifications, but we do have an instrument now that will be able to determine how well they're, kind of holding within that window of tolerance.
Awesome, thank you. And then, obviously, as you know, a lot of the complaints have gone residential driven at night, kind of bleeding into their bedrooms and everything as well. So just throwing that out there as a residential light. All right, great. Thank you on that update. And then my last kind of thing that I've stumbled across in the past 2 weeks, Joe's Bayou, that is coming back and going to go to our committee first, and that's going to be where they give the first variation of design concept. With that, I've sat down with Lieutenant Browning from the Coast Guard, and they're interested in needing positions that would be here locally in Destin. It would help a lot with their response time and just overall logistics, and they are looking for a place to stay. So whether it be at Joe's Bayou, since there's already a bathroom, to extend it, he's looking for a couple hundred square feet, or if it's somewhere else in the city of Destin, I'm just trying to find some kind of collaboration there. I don't really have anything to vote on, but that's just an idea I wanted to throw out there. Is the Lieutenant Browning from the Coast Guard is interested in filling 3 seats. It would help with some of our patrols, some of our short-term rentals, not short-term rentals, but our vessel problem that we're having out there with the rentals. And them, the sheriffs, and FWC are the three key players. And so I figured if we can kind of have a central location for them to respond quickly from. Right now, the Coast Guard's main operation for the response, not necessarily we know of over at the East Pass. His unit is actually in Panama City, so they have to go to Panama City, get the gear, come to Destin, and in the middle of the summer, that's hours on their personnel. So just a discussion, anything in particular. Eventually, the plans for Joe's Bio will come to us, and I didn't know if that was something you guys were deemed pursuing before it got to us, and if I could bring that up at the committee or not when they bring this out. So just kind of bringing it out for just a discussion basis at the moment. Councilman Bing?
Yeah, I just curious, what do you mean they're looking for 3 seats? You're looking for,
So we got 3
vote
job
slips, or-
opportunities, yeah, 3
Okay.
positions that they fill currently. They're trying to get them closer to Destin, and that would help from his, just like staffing for us. If they were here in Destin, they'd get Destin housing allowance, which is $300 more than Panama City, as well as response time, whether that be spills from gasoline at the marinas and/or patrolling out there for different vessels. Councilman Schmidt, oh, and then I'll go.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very intriguing and interesting. I would love to learn more. I mean, so are you saying specifically that we would need to put some type of physical space? You're like talking about like
That's what he's
office,
hoping for,
parking,
yeah.
dock. I
Yeah,
guess.
he's saying.
And
you know,
what would they do differently than the other one you're saying?
This would allow Lieutenant to zone Destin as their base. It would allow for them to help with their recruiting. It would allow this to be the location that they get their equipment from and not Panama City Beach. So it would bring it a closer. And his knack and math was the time that it takes logistics right now from Panama City Beach to here is actually a whole staff member's yearly wages in wasted logistics right now. So during the summer, yeah. So this would just, it's not obligated by us by any means, but this would allow, for them to allow to recruit and to have faster response time, which offsets the problems that we have on the water with, whether it's derelict vessels or rogue vessels or, just rentals in general. So with that, Councilwoman.
So the question I have is that if they have these 3 assigned people, what they're looking for is, say, physically at Joe's Bayou, have a boat at one of the piers, or have a body
So I don't even think it's
sitting
the
at
boat. It would be more of just their truck and a place to input the data, just like Councilman Giles said, they're going to go respond, they're going to come back, and then they're going to have to do the paperwork.
So if they had that location, it's already got a bathroom, and it's got like a
Exactly.
little office area that they could,
Yeah, so it wouldn't be.
share, not necessarily big.
Yeah,
create
it's
a
not
new
vessels
building.
or anything. And
Got
then,
it.
I was talking to Danny about this too, and maybe it's a co-op space for all the enforcement law out there, including code. But again, I know it's a park, so I wanted to not make this into something bigger than it was supposed to be in scope. So Lieutenant and I are going to go to the Parks and Rec Committee, and he's going to really give the information of what he would need and things of that nature. And that way we have all the information, so I'm not kind of here saying anything.
So Lisa, that would then be something you could look at and find out, okay, do we have the facility and the structure and the availability to have more personnel at that location physically, right?
Well, I think Mayor is planning on being there because DEP will be there, because this would be something they would have to approve,
Yeah.
I believe.
And then they would have to approve, and maybe someone else needs to answer this. They would need to approve anything that's in their scope of their budget. Can we add to it with our funds? Or is that something to discuss later on? Yeah. All right, so Councilman, let's see here. Schmidt, you have anything else to say on that? All right, King, you're good?
Yeah, I just was curious. I would be curious to, nobody supports I support the first responders. I mean, I understand the importance of the first responders, and I support them wholeheartedly. I think what it kind of reminds me of is what sort of reminds me of it, I'd like to hear other people's thoughts, is the fire station at
Yeah.
Calhoun Park.
We
Yeah.
alleviated that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so where's the line, you know what I mean?
And I think this one is, there's no vehicles other than a truck, so they're looking for office space. This isn't a suit-up
Got it.
location.
More of a partnership.
Yeah.
And I got you.
Yeah, and I can get them to give us the full details of exactly, hey, we need 3 desks and 400 square feet with internet.
I'm gonna catch a lot of flack from my fishing buddies if we approve something that allows the game warden to live at Joe's Bayou. You know?
Yeah,
Why would that be a problem?
I said my fishing buddies, not myself. I've gotten a ticket at Joe's Bayou before.
Councilman
to be honest
Sweetser?
with you.
I like the idea, but I do, on the sentiments of Johnny, see where it's going in the future. What if they need more space? Is it going to expand? How is that going to affect the park plans if this goes before the grant is released? And it also kind of goes hand in hand with what I had mentioned on Parks and Recreation a few years ago, was trying to find some type of program, whether it be volunteer or something with the county or the state, to have parks and recreational, I'm sorry, I'm losing the word in my head right now. Park rangers, especially down at Calhoun and Joe's Bayou, to regulate, because Lisa's staff can't be there all the time. Code enforcement can't be there all the time, nor really could them. But I'm not against it. I think that we should, if we do go forward with that, there's a lot of other little
Yeah, I
entities
think
we
you
need to
box
dig
it up.
into before going
All right,
any
perfect.
further with that, but
Yep.
it's not
All right.
a bad idea. I
Perfect,
like it.
yep. Councilwoman?
This is about Joe's Bayou, but it's on a different subject, and I forgot to bring it up under my name. Webb, were we going to talk about fees at the next meeting, trying to get that incorporated for Joe's Bayou for residents for one-time fee?
I believe we're going to try to bring that back after the visioning session, before the main part of the season kicked in.
Okay, I knew we had talked about it. I couldn't remember when we were going to try and get that updated and implemented.
Yeah, there's
Okay.
definitely a lot of fees that we've been looking at, and we're going to be bringing back an agenda item. I see Ms. Crystal back there nodding her head.
Awesome. I think that's great. I was hoping we would do it sooner before people go get their new stickers.
All right, and then.
If you want it under your name, just let us know.
I'm just going to run, go get mine before the visioning session.
All right, and that was all I had, so I appreciate you guys with that. And with that, I will turn it over to Land Use Attorney.
Well, happy birthday, Mayor.
Thank you.
You are still the youngest ever mayor.
Thank you.
So I have 2 quick things. One is to Councilmember Schmidt. You had asked about the resolution, so City Clerk and I pulled up, and we did one 2021-06 where we encouraged and supported the county and its efforts to seek changes from the FAA to direct air and helicopter tours away from residential areas and from congested beaches. So if you want, we could do a similar ordinance for 2022 and reiterate it, or we could just pass.
Sure. So I
Yes?
got that, and that was back when, if my memory is correct, whenever they were pursuing the changes at the airport. And I think they were asked for our support in doing a resolution. So as you see, that resolution was to supporting the county and their efforts. My
Wanna do a
intentions
sep-
is the city of Destin.
Gotcha.
I'm not wanting to work with the county on, them to do it. I want us to do it. That's my intentions for the resolution request that I put forward.
Okay, and then the second thing was just a quick reminder, and the city manager brought it up a couple meetings ago, but next Tuesday, the 24th, we are hosting FDOT regarding grant funding, and I know Jeff Kozad and staff will be there, but any elected officials that want to come should, and I know we have people coming from other localities too, and it's a regional thing, and it's very good for the city to have FDOT see us all caring in there.
I'm going to be out of town, or I would be there. You knew that.
Yes, and I think some other council members are coming in. The city clerk has advertised it,
Okay,
so
that
we
was
don't
my
have to worry
question.
about sunshine. Right, Ray? Awesome.
Yes.
That's all.
All right, thank you. All right. Then City Attorney Kyle.
Nothing for me, Bobby.
All right, thank you. And then I'm going to go back one more. I just did a Destin Water users tour, and we just approved their land where some of the development was going to be next to the airport. They are just in the designs of starting everything now, so I was going to ask if we could direct our city manager to entertain a conversation with Destin City water users to see if there's a way to do a pathway or something around what they're going to be doing with their land. It's going to be for the spill-off water for their reclaimed water system. I'm not going to speak on behalf of them, but I think there's an opportunity to have a walk trail around the design, and if we could work with them in some way, I think it would be a great collaboration. It still serves their need for the land as far as a area for the dump the water, but if there's a way to make that a pathway, I think that's just a proactive thought, so just.
I'll make that motion for the mayor, for the city manager.
Second, any discussions? Seeing none, calling the vote. Sorry, Lockwood, just making your life more fun. All right, ayes have it, so moved. All right, thank you so much. And at this point, I'm going to open the floor for public comments. Last call, you have 3 minutes to speak. Sharon up here. All right. You know the drill.
Captain Gary Jarvis, 804 Mars Street. There for a minute, I thought you guys were going to get done by 7. And then y'all had your turn.
First hour is y'all's, the second hour is ours.
Hey, I was guilty as first 4.5 years. Disappointing to see the $5,000 contribution for the workforce house study was defeated. If anyone on this council or in this community think that workforce housing doesn't affect our business community and the subsequent tax base, they got another thing coming. And so I'm going to give you some ex-mayor fatherly advice. When it comes to issues involving the county and the commission, I just want to remind us, and even on the issue of the helicopters, that we have excellent representation with the chairman, Mel Ponder, for the city of Destin. He's our representative. He's somebody that each one of you can talk to, and especially like on the issue of helicopters or things that are affecting the city but it falls under their jurisdiction, that's where you need to go. That's who you need to talk to. I think here in the public forum and from the dais, when comments are made or things are being discussed, issues facing Destin that involves the county, I just want to advise you, because this is something I worked on really hard, and the previous councils have too, that the attitude of teamwork is going to accomplish far more than a bunker mentality of, well, they've screwed us and we're not getting our fair share. That may be true in some cases, but you can work through that. You can negotiate through that. You can develop a level of trust and understanding to accomplish those issues where we feel like we're getting the short end of the stick. So I just want to remind you, it's really easy to take shots. It's a lot harder to recover from the wounds from those shots. And there's times, whether we like it or not, we are a municipality and you are responsible for the management of and the policy setness, but we also live in Okaloosa County. And those people are hired and elected as their responsibility to the county as well. And the good news is we have a defined representative on that county commission that so happens to be the chairman as well. So I think an attitude of teamwork and encouragement, and when we are being slighted or have issues that we don't think are being resolved, I would reach out to Mel Ponder first and air those to him first, and then come back on this dais and share those findings and take whatever appropriate actions y'all think are necessary. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else?
Hi, Stephen Franco. I was going to say, Kyle, I think you said.
Address.
I'm sorry?
Address.
Address. Oh, 4320 Commons Drive.
Thank you.
I was just going to say, I had been coordinating with the folks at Smallwood Rentals before, so if you'd like me to do make any kind of a just introduction or anything like that for you to coordinate that, happy to do it. And if you're reaching out, I just want to let you know that way.
All right, appreciate it, Steve. I'll get up with you after the meeting.
Okay.
All right, thank you. All right, ma'am. First and last name and address, please.
Becky Pritchard, 145 Timber Court, and I'm here tonight because I heard you were going to bring up the streetlight situation. Hi, Michael.
That's your best friend right there.
I talked to him on the phone. I talked to him on the phone for quite a while the other day and had a great understanding about that. But I did want to let you know that it may be a few people talking loudly, but it's only because some people just want to complain and don't want to try to find out if there's anything that can be done. You know, they just want to talk to each other.
Yep.
Because I put it on next door, which, you know, shoot me for that, but not the complaint. I just wanted to know, did anybody else feel like they were excessive, you know, or if it was just me? Because on my street, our homes are very close to the street, and it's really bright. It is like, and I mean, driving, you have to put your visor down if you are at all sensitive to light. And my street has already become a cut through. And now that you can see from one end to the other, it's like people are flying down. Not everybody, but people that are cutting through are flying. So I realize that it's the DOT that recommends how bright it should be or what the fixture should be. But I also feel like there hopefully is some consideration as to how close the lights are to the streets and how close the homes are to those lights. Because if I did not have my magnolia tree, that light would be inside my house without question. So I just wanted to thank y'all for looking into that.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Mhm.
For being here.
All right, anyone else? Yes, sir. Hey. All right, so.
Turn it on. There you go.
Yeah, hi, my name's Ian Blaze. I live in 702 North Lakeside Drive, just a stakeholder on the harbor, and I wanted to voice some frustration about my experience the other night with the meeting. First off, forgive me, but I got a call a week before, and it was from a city rep who called me to ask me and let me know that I should, he was just filing through it, and I guess because I was on the committee, I would be a stakeholder and I should be there. And he asked me to disseminate with everybody on the harbor that I knew, to just let them know that the annex, meeting was going to happen, or the meeting was going to happen at the annex that day. When I showed up, my biggest frustration, I think, is I find it curious that the stakeholders' annex meeting was on the backside of it, given specifically since the leader of the pack, the Corps, and I thought they were terrific, but she did say in that meeting that evidently this is an unprecedented study, the capacity study, and the guidelines are based on a closed body of water, a lake. And with that being said, I'm looking forward to the results of the capacity study, but I don't know that it's like I made a remark and everybody was there the other night. It's apples to oranges, because evidently there was no guidelines set when they started to consider and evaluate the harbor, and something along the line. And I was only there for half the time, but what I heard, and I asked her specifically, I was like, well, what's governing it? What were the guidelines for the lake? And she goes, well, the guidelines for the lake, a closed body of water, were linear feet, square footage, and whatever they were, it's a definitive or a finite result because it's a closed body of water. We have an open body of water, and they were saying the guidelines were like 25 nautical miles, if I'm not mistaken, and it's a Destin Harbor capacity study that seems extreme, and they're evaluating everything under the sun, and I feel bad about them for them, because it's a daunting task to begin with, and it's even more daunting without applicable guidelines to determine the actual capacity of the study, or the harbor, excuse me. And that's it. I just look forward to it, and I wanted to, hope you all recognize that when you review the report, when it comes out, that it's an unprecedented study, and I suggested going to do another capacity study with another harbor before making any suggestions, because comparing a harbor to a lake and all the access points of a harbor, I mean, they were including Joe's Bayou, which I get because of all the rogue operators and their access point, but it's just, Destin's small, and it should have been a pinpointed study with guidelines, and that's all I'm saying. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, anyone else? All right, first and last name and your address.
My name is Logan Goodson. I reside at 111 Farah in Niceville. I'm here representing the Florida Department of Health in Okaloosa County today. I work in the tobacco prevention program as a health education specialist, and I'm here also with my partner, Anna Maria, who works in the program with me. I'm here mostly to present, to one, thank you all for taking the time to address smoke-free beaches. I represent and I have the opportunity and privilege of representing the Okaloosa County Tobacco-Free Partnership. This partnership is a collective of stakeholders in our community based in Destin, all throughout the county. Our students working against tobacco, all working in collective to pursue and foster opportunities to prevent tobacco within our communities and also offer cessation access. So this opportunity in discussing tobacco-free beaches in Destin, as well as what we're doing in Okaloosa County right now, is a very prescient time for my program and for the constituents that I represent. So I just want to say me and my partner Anna Maria are available for any questions that the City of Destin might have whenever they're reviewing any model policy language that goes into drafting an ordinance geared towards tobacco-free beaches. We're available at Tobacco Free Florida Okaloosa or tobaccofreeokaloosa@flhealth.gov. So please feel free to reach out to me at any time. We're happy to answer any questions that you might have. Know that our community constituents are very excited for this opportunity, as only 14% of Florida residents actually smoke. So policies like tobacco-free beaches are supporting the majority of your constituents based in Florida, Destin, and throughout Okaloosa County. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. Anyone else? Yeah.
Hello, Anna Maria Panagos. Please forgive me, I'm losing my voice, so bear with me. 565 Canoa Drive for Walton Beach. I am a health educator, like Logan Goodson mentioned. I work with him in our tobacco prevention program, and my primary role is to work with our teens in our schools, their teachers and parents, with our Students Working Against Tobacco Youth Program. So in my role, I see, hear, and constantly research how tobacco and nicotine use affect the lives of our youth. Okaloosa County is a natural playground of emerald water and white sands that contribute to our identity. Destin is the world's luckiest fishing village, and if we want to be defined and remembered this way, we have to protect our precious resources. When local governments introduce smoke-free policies, they are protecting everyone from generations to come. Policies restricting tobacco use in public spaces benefit the health of communities by reducing tobacco use, decreasing exposure to secondhand smoke, and reducing toxic waste. But perhaps most importantly, and the reason why I'm here, is that these policies prevent people from starting to smoke by changing the social norms. So smoking is not seen as an accepted behavior, and this mostly protects our youth. Various environmental cues, such as ashtrays or designated smoking places, suggest acceptability and can make it harder for people trying to quit if they're walking through a parking lot where people are smoking. Youth already encounter pro-tobacco messages everywhere, and it's repeatedly in their social environment. It's critical to change the social norm of smoking to bring down the overall smoking rates among our youth, which is a huge problem in our county. In our home of Okaloosa County, 15.9% of our youth ages 11 to 17 are reporting using these tobacco products or electronic vapor products in 2022. This is higher in comparison to the state at 12.5%. Also, 68.3% of our youth were exposed to secondhand cigarette or electronic vapor aerosol in 2022. Most people, 9 out of 10, start smoking before age 18. We can model positive health behaviors for our children if our natural playgrounds are places where they can be active and safe, rather than somewhere where they continue to be exposed to secondhand smoke. There is no constitutional right to smoke. Smoking is not a specially protected liberty. Fully smoke-free public parks and beaches will protect the 84% of our youth who currently do not use tobacco products or electronic vapor products, but are at risk of doing so before they're even legally able to purchase these products. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right. Last call. Yep, jump on in. Oh. Hit it again. It was already on. Yep, there you go.
Angela Johnson, 100 Country Club Drive West, Destin. And I'm here speaking on behalf of Timberview Helicopters. My husband, Justin Johnson, is the owner, so I have a very vested interest. And I don't have a whole lot to say. I do want to thank Mayor Jarvis, kind of clarified a pretty big point I had, which was I was kind of curious why you guys would seek a resolution when it's not really Destin jurisdiction. The county is in a pretty good lawsuit at this time, so I think his advice was very, very awesome, and Mel Ponder is very heavily involved, so I thought that was great advice. Thank you, Mayor Jarvis. And then I did want to clarify a couple of things. You, although are very interested in this, I don't see a lot of research that you've done to get any questions answered. And at any time you have a question, feel free to call me directly, call my husband. We do take calls personally. But just to clarify a few things, there's no intent to build a hangar on that property. We would never do that. But at that being said, there is nothing in our lease that has ever stated that you can't build a hangar. There's also nothing that says a limitation on the amount of aircraft. But that will all be done in the research. But if you do have any questions, 100% feel free to call us. But we're here to help however we can. And we would like y'all to reach out to us first.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? All right. Seeing none, call this meeting to the end. Adjourn.
Adjourn.